Hello, this is Vicky from vickycharles.com and you're listening to episode number 32 of my podcast. The show notes from this and previous podcasts can be found at vickycharles.com/podcast. And this week's podcast number 32 is all about Klout. 5 top tips for improving your Klout score. So let's get on with it. Welcome to episode 32 of the vickycharles.com podcast, 5 top tips for improving your Klout. Parent bloggers, we seem to be a bit obsessed with Klout, don't we? I think possibly because it's included in the TOTS 100 metrics, we seem to be completely enamoured with it, obsessed with it a little bit. Everybody wants to know, how do I improve my Klout? How did you get your Klout score so high? Oh, you must be brilliant because your Klout score is so high, or oh, you must be rubbish because your Klout score is so low. And then you get people kind of having a bit of a backlash from it, saying, oh, Klout's a load of rubbish, it's pointless, it's silly. It is worth remembering that Klout is not owned by TOTS 100, it's only used by them, and it's actually used by an awful lot of other people as well. One person you should definitely look at is Thomas Power. He trains CEOs of major corporations in how to use their social media, and he uses Klout as a good reference point to say, well, have a look at your Klout score, and if it goes up, then you know you've done the right thing, basically. And I use that with my clients when I'm training them on a much lower level than Thomas Power, I hasten to add. I use that kind of, okay, well, I'll show you how to do this and I'll show you how to do this, and we'll connect up your Klout, and then you can see if what you're doing is making a difference. On a day-to-day level, you can't see it. You can see that this tweet might have got a few more retweets, and Facebook will give you some insights, but you can't see an overall picture, and that's why Klout is useful, I think, as it shows you an overall picture of whether you're going up or down, and that is something that can be handy, not just for blogs, but for businesses, for kind of personalities. If you want to be a personality online, it's really handy. So my first top tip is to be sociable. You can't hack Klout. There's no way around it. There's no way of tricking it or gaming it. You just have to be sociable. It measures your online Klout. That's why it's called Klout. And in order to have Klout, in order to have that influence, you need to be there. Tweets from people with a higher Klout score can help, but what really helps to improve your Klout is that if you're speaking to different people all the time, obviously it's gauging your influence, and you can only have influence online if you're speaking to a lot of different people, a wide range of people, rather than just the same 10 people over and over again. So that's really worth bearing in mind. And really, if you're going to become obsessed with only talking to people with a higher score, that's just a bit weird, isn't it? It is all about engagement, and if you've got 50 people with a really low Klout score interacting with you, that probably is better than having just one with a higher Klout score. Just in general, in terms of chatting to people, you don't want to only chat to one person all day. It's going to get boring and you won't be able to keep it up. They won't want to keep it up if you're just there every morning. Oh, hi, how are you? They're not going to want to know. So just chat to everybody. Don't kind of limit it by, oh, they've got a rubbish blog, or they've got a low Klout score, I don't want to talk to them, or they're not part of this, or they don't do that, or whatever. Chat to everyone. Be as sociable as you can. Be inclusive rather than exclusive in who you talk to. My second top tip for improving your Klout is to create great content. And I don't mean just blogs by that. I mean your tweets and your Facebook. Use quotes from others, retweet others, share things that you would think that you would want to share yourself. So don't just share links to your blog all day long, because after a while people won't want to share that. I know I've been as guilty of that as anybody. On days when I don't have time to be on Twitter all day, it is just a stream of blog tweets that go out. But just try and kind of chat to people as well, interact with people, and make sure that either side of your blog links, you're tweeting quotes, useful information, statistics, anything related to your niche, anything that your readers or your followers are going to be interested to like and share. You want people to share your content because that is a key part of engagement. So think about when you post something, if I saw that on my Facebook timeline or on my Twitter feed, would I share it? And if the answer is no, then just don't bother. You want people to share your stuff, and the way to do that is to create really, really top-end content. And you don't need to create it all yourself. You can share it from other people. There's nothing wrong with doing that. Just choose wisely with what you do. My third top tip is to be generous and genuine. Share other people's things. Chat with other people. So like I said in tip number 1 about being sociable, don't just talk to the people with a higher Klout score who can improve your score. Chat to everyone. You don't want to get a reputation for being a bit snooty and funny and, oh, she doesn't ever answer me. So that's just not very nice. And I do think that being genuine and helpful really does pay dividends in this sort of thing. So don't just answer questions as well. If somebody asks a question, generally answer them and then come back to them the next day maybe and go, how did you get on with that? If somebody asks you a specific question, definitely always answer them and try and be as helpful as possible. Try and provide as much information as you can, and say to them, well, feel free to email me, or, how can I help you with this, or how are you doing with that? And if you don't know the answer, retweet them. I quite often will retweet journalists, not to try and kind of get favour with journalists, because often they're not doing anything in my niche, but I know that a lot of bloggers follow me. So if I've got a journalist looking for a blogger living in southwest London who blah blah blah, then I'll retweet them, just because I probably know a blogger who lives in southwest London who blah blah blah. Just be as helpful as you can. My fourth tip is to connect as many networks as possible to your Klout. They recently added in YouTube, and I was really reticent about adding my YouTube because I thought, I've got like 5 followers and I only post really like Blair Witch Project-y sort of level videos of a toddler singing. They're not high end. I'm not a vlogger by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think it's worth my effort to do, and it'll probably lower my Klout score. I was wrong. I actually increased my Klout score by 1 point just by doing that. I don't think it matters. I don't think it will lower your Klout score if you've got a kind of a bit of a dodgy one where you've only got 5 followers or 10 followers or whatever. I think the fact that you're adding in another network, another stream for people to find you on, kind of builds to it, because even if you've only got 5 followers, those 5 followers may not follow you on any other networks. So to have you there kind of just adds to your Klout, really, and I think Klout see that in the way that they organise things. My 5th and final tip for Klout is to add what you want to measure. So I know a lot of bloggers especially will add their personal account rather than their Facebook page, because their personal account has more friends, or it gets more interaction, or they struggle with their page. But I would say to that you kind of, it just feels a bit like you're trying to gain Klout by doing that. I've spoken an awful lot in the past about why I think you should have a page rather than a personal account if you're trying to promote anything at all. And really, I use Klout not so much to get a high tot score or anything. I use my Klout to see how I'm doing, and I want to see how I'm doing in terms of my Facebook page, not in terms of my personal account, which can go up and down depending on whether I bother to add people or whether I bother to update it even, because I quite often don't. So just try and bear in mind that you want to measure what you're promoting, basically. So add that account. Don't add the Twitter account that you manage that has 500,000 followers, but it's not actually yours. You manage it for somebody else, because that's not really honest. If you've got a personal account that you've had for 10 years and it's got thousands of friends because you've added every single person you've met in every job for 10 years, and everybody comments on everything you do, then yeah, but you add it to Klout, but you're only measuring like that personal side of it, not your business side. And a lot of people do see their blog as a business, or maybe should see their blog as a business. If you're trying to promote it, it's better to start thinking of it as a business rather than a personal thing, and treat it as a business in terms of how you promote it, how you interact with it. So adding that to your Klout, your Klout score might be lower, but it'll be more genuine, and it'll be a better indicator for you of how you're doing with your social media, because if you add your personal account, then you can't really track your blog as a whole online in terms of its social media presence. So that's really worth bearing in mind. I know it's like a really big gulp to think, but then my Klout score will go down. Does it matter if your Klout score goes down? The world will not end. Your TOTS ranking might go down and the world will still not end. This world will keep turning. You will continue to get the same emails that you got before, the same opportunities that you got before. Very little will change if either your TOTS ranking goes down or your Klout score goes down, because what you've built over the time of having your blog is worth more than a number. And I've kind of gone off at a tangent there, but I really think that's really important to remember, that you've got your blog, and your blog is there with however many months or years worth of posts that people can look back at. And anybody realistically can game a Klout score for a few days. It's really easy to get your Klout score up really high and to stay there for a little while, but that doesn't really show anything. You're looking at long-term gains here rather than the short-term, and arbitrary scorings aren't going to give that to you. So just bear that in mind. I really think that's important, and I know people are probably going to disagree with me, but feel free to. So those are my 5 top tips for Klout. I do hope you found them interesting and engaging. If you've anything you'd like to add, do please feel free. And if you've written a blog post about Klout, please do. I might add a linky thing to here so that people can add their Klout posts, because I find it really interesting. And I think a lot of people are completely in the dark about it. And the people who aren't in the dark don't think anybody's interested, so they don't write about it. And actually, I wrote 2 posts about Klout earlier this year, and they did really well because everybody seemed to be really interested in it. So if you've written something about it, do please share it here. Do please share this podcast with your friends if you've enjoyed it. I'd love if you would subscribe to it on Stitcher Radio and maybe even leave me a review, because I don't think I've had one yet. Eventually, this podcast will be available on iTunes when I sort myself out and put myself there. In the meantime, you can get it on Stitcher Radio, you can get it directly from Spreaker, or you can find it at vickycharles.com/podcast. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back next week.